Deputy Speaker. This has been a cause of great celebration in Western Australia, obviously, when the golden rocks were discovered. Now, these rocks are, or islands, as they may officially be called, are really about the size of a kitchen table. They're about 3 metres across and penetrate a mere 1 metre beyond the surface of the water. And I believe I've had some conflicting advice whether it's a metre above the low water mark or the metre above the high water mark. I'm presuming it's probably the high water mark because that seems to be the reference point for making the determination on the territorial, on whose territory the coasts surrounding them then lie. So Western Australia's sphere of influence has now indeed expanded quite considerably into the Browse Basin and in particular to the Tarosa, into the Tarosa retention lease. And there's been a great deal of celebration about what the added benefits that this will bring to Western Australia financially if the project does indeed go ahead. Perhaps I'm slightly less optimistic about the benefits that will accrue to Western Australia, because we know in the way that the Grants Commission works that for every additional cent that we give or that we receive in royalty, that we receive a direct reduction in our GST return. Now, I think we're down about the last figures I saw. We're down to getting about 32 cents in the dollar back from our imputed GST contributions. So the actual benefit really to Western Australians is going to be somewhat more muted than that headline Golden Rock story first implied. Certainly there is some short-term advantage in that you get the money before you have to take your cut in the GST. There is a 3-year there's a 3-year average rolling average process, so that you have that small window of opportunity when you get the dough and you're not having your GST massively cut. But then, of course, that has a problem at the back end, as Premier Barnett is now experiencing, where the royalty growth is drying up, but the GST disbenefit is continuing. So I just put this word of caution about those that are seeing these rocks as golden. It may indeed be in the immediate and direct royalty sense something of fool's gold. However, there certainly is, as the member for Brand pointed out, a very considerable benefit that then comes to the state government by way of being able to influence the manner in which this basin is, these retention leases are ultimately developed, because they will now, on the basis of the material that we're considering here today, there will be, in relation to the Tarosa lease, a majority share in the hands of Western Australia. That will give Western Australia much more say in the determination of the technology to be used. And I think the member for Brown described it as having skin in the game. I do point out again that the amount of skin that one has is diminished very considerably by the GST arrangements, and that the direct financial benefit is in fact very limited. But I want to go on and say that I do think that there has been a lot of wasted opportunity in Western Australia surrounding Browse. I think that the insistence by the Premier that the development take place at James Price Point, that was a unilateral decision that he was going to make, that it had to be an onshore development, really, I think, saw us spend a hell of a lot of time and effort for very little gain. I agree with the member for Brand that I think you have to be prepared to go with the most cost-effective and environmentally sound technology, that it is not reasonable for us to expect that in this globally competitive environment that we're going to have a company proceed with a development that is using a technology that some might argue has been superseded. But that having been said, I guess I would also say that I think there is a hell of a lot more scope for us to insist that in the development of FLNG that we have a much greater slice of the action in Western Australia. I don't accept that we should in fact accept without any critique the industry participation plans that have been proposed by Woodside around this project. And before I go on to that, I should also mention that that in terms of the environmental impact, it is my very strong view that by about 2000 and 2011, I think there was a very strong view had really emerged in the Kimberley that they did not want to see this facility develop on the coast. They did not want to industrialise the Kimberley, that the offshore option they believed was indeed a much better option. Now, that's not to say that there wasn't a degree of diversity of opinion within the community, but I would, over those years I was travelling regularly to the Kimberley, and it was my very strong sense that really the community on balance was coming down very much more on in favour of a development proposal that involved the protection of the coast. And I think that has indeed been borne out by the subsequent election results in 2013, when this was still a very contested issue, although I think most of us realise that probably Woodside had already made their decision well before that election, but had been decided not to share that with the community more generally. But so in relation to the so FLNG clearly for a project in this location has a great economic and environmental benefits, and I do accept, and I think from my discussions with the Woodside that the analysis that we had from the member for Brand about the ability for us to develop the technology in relation to anchoring, us being in such a beneficial position with the Prelude being the first FLNG facility to come on stream, also being in West Australian waters. There is certainly benefits that can be gained from that. But I also do think that we have to be far more vigilant in determining the way in which we lock in the requirement for this work to be done in Western Australia, and for the FEED, the front-end engineering design, and the detailed design to be largely specified to be in Western Australia. I think, reading the plan, the industry participation plan that Woodside put forward through Browse, I am concerned that we have not demanded enough, and I have quoted in the past, as many people have, the experience that we see with the Hebron development in Canada, where they actually specified in man hours or person hours the amount of feed, and from off the top of my head, I think it was something like 25,000 hours of feed, of man hours that had to be directed towards feed in Newfoundland. Likewise, in relation to the detailed design, it was over 1 million man hours. Now, I have to say that we have got a lot bigger problem here than sometimes we're acknowledging. We've got engineering schools that are producing young oil and gas engineers who cannot get an entry-level job, cannot get a graduate job. The major companies are no longer even bothering to turn up to the careers days being put on by the engineering schools because they're not offering any jobs. So unless we are doing more to insist that we get more of that feed, more of that detailed design locked in for locally, that we are going to miss out on the ability for our young people to get in and get those entry-level jobs. They're not going to be employed. They're not going to get the jobs that are going to Paris and Seoul. We have to be harder on that. I think that it goes to the very nature of the procurement, and indeed there is a lot of concern that if there are other companies that are being other countries who are providing the engineering in the design, that they will also have an advantage in competing for that maintenance work, that unless we demand it, unless we lock it in, unless we make that part of these agreements, then we are not going to see those benefits go to Australia, and indeed not Western Australia. And I just hope that one of the benefits that will come out of this new arrangement is that we will see a greater a greater focus on trying to extract the benefit, because the benefit is not going to come from the royalty alone. We're just going to lose that in GST. The benefit is going to emerge from us ensuring that we get good jobs out of this. We're not being Luddites. We're not resisting, well, I'm not, FLNG. I think we should be arguing for FLNG, but we've got to do more than accept the expressions of best endeavours by the company to make sure that we bring home the bacon on this one. Thank you.